Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World, the Tactical Review. My name is Anthony McGuire. As always, I'm joined by Paul Massey as we dissect Celtic 1, Hearts 2, the first game under our new manager, Wilfred Nancy, the press Nancy. Before we get into the game, because obviously a lot to talk about, obviously change in formation, change in tactics. Obviously not quite getting off to the flying start that we're all obviously hoping for. So we'll get into that in a second. But before we dive into that, we'll get into what happened on our weekends. I actually managed to get away to Brisbane. So I live in Perth, which is on the west coast. So I managed to get over to the east coast for a nice 3-day break. So that was nice and relaxing. And then managed to take in the first day of the second test at the Gabba. So Joe Root made a century, that was. But the only highlight the English can probably lay claim to, because it was all Australia after that. It was again another good victory for the Aussies, probably the only bright spark in my sporting weekend, because I also managed to get to the NBL basketball, so the local basketball team Perth Wildcats. They were 20 points up at three-quarter time, so that's probably the equivalent of 3-0 with 10 minutes to go. And then they lost by a point. So I don't know how they managed that, but they did. So basically lost 4-3 in injury time. So that, and then obviously Oscar Piastri didn't win the World Championship. Lando Norris did. So I was on a pretty shaky nail as far as sports were concerned this weekend. But I drank plenty of beer. I had a nice, good time. I enjoyed it anyway, as you do. And then this all built up in anticipation to the first game under Wilfred's new, career as Celtic manager. But keep our powder dry for another minute or two. Paul, how are you? And how was your weekend, mate?
Weekend was good. Pretty tame. I spent most of it in front of the cricket, which was exactly what I had intended. Main change for me was I was supposed to have minor knee surgery on Wednesday. Bit of messing around. Long story, really short. It's ended up being rearranged. So I will go under the knife a week on Wednesday. So still get it done before the end of the year, which is good. Which is an update since we last spoke. So I'll tell you the detail off air. So I'd always planned to be laid up watching cricket, and as it's intended, that meant my weekend was still pretty free. So managed to get juggle work so I could see most of day 1 and 2. The day night element helped. Obviously, it started a bit later. And then, Saturday, my lovely wife was out for the day with one of her girlfriends. So that freed me up to spend literally the whole day in front of the cricket. So, thoroughly enjoyed that. And then yesterday, we were at lunch with some friends. Luckily, he's a big cricket fan as well, another Scotsman. And I gently inquired that was the cricket going to be on prior to us arriving for lunch, and he was very grateful that I'd inquired through my wife on that, because he thought he was going to have to keep the TV off because he was hosting. So we managed to get a bit of the play in the front room before lunch was served, and in typical Aussie style, there was a TV in the outdoor area for lunch, so we managed to have that aimed in our direction. And kept a good one eye on it all afternoon. So as far as Australian cricket goes, another excellent weekend's play. And we look forward ahead to Adelaide in 9 days time. So inconveniently, the first day is when I'm going under the knife. So I'll miss some of the first days.
Oh, that's so inconsiderate.
I know. I'll miss some of the first day's play, but I imagine there'll be with a bit of luck, there'll be a telly in the ward, so I'll get to see it pre and post surgery, and then I'll get. I've got an excuse to be sitting in front of the TV watching cricket, recovering from the surgery. So I think, that was about it. Other than watching the Celtic game, which was a significant downshift from the cricket.
I think Maish is the right idea here. 3-day tests with baseball in full swing. Yes, I think. You'd be a brave man to be betting on a day 4 or day 5 test match at the moment, the way they're batting. But anyway, We've got Who's the Stitch, Gentleman, hail to you, sir. McLaughlin Peace feeling a bit down, feeling worse than before Rogers left. Well, hopefully we can maybe pick you back up. And I haven't spoken to Paul today, so I don't know what his thoughts are. But I've got a few thoughts of my own, but we'll see if we can come to some sort of consensus on what's happened in the last 24 hours, and obviously in the last 3 or 4 days since Wilfred's joined Celtic. So sing out in the comments, because obviously I dare say everyone has their thoughts on what's happened. So I'm really obviously keen to get as many thoughts and comments up tonight as possible, given we're at the start of a new tenure. So obviously since the last time we've been on air, it was obviously the mood music was that Wilfred Nancy was imminent. So he sort of came on board after the midweek game, which was Martin O'Neill's last one in charge. So Wilfred was in the door 2 days. I think, Paul, me and you were discussing a bit of tactical pragmatism, some tweaks to the formation, maybe a few wee sort of extra patterns of play, but obviously, we've done this type of tactical review now for 3 seasons, and it was like you could set your watch to the fact that Celtic were rocking up with a 4-3-3. So I mean, you kind of slept through that part of the chat. So it was more like who's in, who's out, but obviously there's a bit of anticipation. Is he going to go 4-3-3? Is he going to change it? And sure enough, he went 3 at the back. So I'll bring it up here. So as we can see here, he's gone with a 3. Well, they've got it as a sort of 3-4-3, but I believe it was more of a 3-4-2-1 was kind of how it was put down on paper and maybe on a certain tactical board, which we may or may not discuss later on. Paul, obviously exciting times. I think you and I at some points through Brendan Rodgers' second tenure sort of said, gee, we've got all these decent centre halves. Why don't we play 3 at the back and try and get an extra one in the midfield or somebody further forward? And Wilfred's just gone straight in there and went, yeah, that's what we're doing. And in fairness, I may as well start. I actually thought the first half we were good. I thought we pinned Hearts back. We pressed them really well. Like, they didn't have a chance to settle, obviously, up until the point where they score the goal, and we'll obviously cover that. But for that 44 minutes, I just kind of felt like the only thing that was missing from us was a finish. Maeda had his chances, probably didn't create a ton of chances, but getting into that final third, which, in fairness to Nancy, has kind of been our problem all season. It was a problem under Rodgers. Martin O'Neill sort of papered over the cracks a bit just by sort of being a bit more direct and being a bit, less circumspect and a bit more just throwing balls in and just trying to create overloads and just try to create more chances. But I kind of felt we looked good, and I could sort of see what he was trying to achieve. And there was probably a 15-minute period there where we were pinging the ball about, and I went, I like the look of this. It was sort of controlled tempo. There was slowed it down, sped it up, and there was passing with intent. And probably the one thing that I haven't seen anybody comment on social media has been the fact that it was absolutely pissing down for 90 minutes. It didn't help us at all. It helped Hearts because they were just basically stationary, defending well. I'll give them credit for that. I thought they defended the box really well, but we were the only ones really, especially in that first half, trying to play sort of football. And I kind of felt players slipping over, and I'm great to have made a wee bit of a benefit of the doubt there with the fact the pitch was so wet and so heavy. But I just kind of feel that despite that, there was periods in that first half where you could sort of see what he wanted, and then unfortunately when the goals come, it kind of starts to unravel. And obviously, we'll discuss the second half as well. Obviously, not as good, but I don't think it's as bad as the media is making it out to be, because everyone says it's a nightmare start, and focusing on McGregor coming over and looking at the tactics board and all sort of stuff. But I thought there was a lot of positives in that first half, and the only thing that was missing from Celtic's point of view was a goal. But I guess Scottish media loves a drama, loves a doomsday scenario, and unfortunately, a certain part of the fan base online has jumped on that and is panicking. The guy's been in the door 3 days. I mean, it just seems crazy. But Paul, I haven't spoken to you, so I'm ready to shut up, and I'm ready to let you talk me through your thoughts on the lineup and take me through the first half as an overview, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Thanks, Anthony. So in group chats between appointment and match day, our group chat, a couple of other group chats, my brother, I was extremely bullish that two things would probably happen. He would go for pragmatic tweaks as opposed to wholesale changes. Main rationale for that is just not enough time with the players. Like literally, he'd have had 2 sessions. Maybe they'd have done a light session on Saturday. I know he took training on Thursday. There would have been training Friday, I'm assuming. And then they may have had a light session Saturday. More likely, they probably just did a tactics and video analysis meeting, I would guess. So really two opportunities to be on the training ground. They don't spend that much time on the training ground, really. So it's not a long time to get a completely new formation and the sort of nuances of the tactics. So when the team lines came out and it was 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-3, whichever way you want to look at it, amounts to the same thing. I had a bit of the fear. I was a little bit concerned. The other thing I thought was odd is, whilst he's played this system a lot in his managerial career, he hasn't played a back 3 all season. So the whole MLS season just gone. He's played a back 4. I took some time over the weekend before the match to go through each match. Sort of, I wasn't able to study the matches. I haven't seen any play, but just go in and look at the match and the formation and the team lines. He hasn't played a back 3 all season in the MLS. He's played a variation of 4-4-2, 4-3-3, and 4-2-3-1. But he hasn't played a back 3. So given we've only played a back 4 for the last however many seasons, I find it, and he hasn't played a back 3 in a season, I find it very odd that you come in with 2 days and try and do a major formation shift there like that. I would have expected to go with a similar formation and then just tweak some of the instructions. So the things I liked, 1 and 2 touch football, players not really encouraged to hang on for it too long, shift it, up the tempo, forward passing between the lines, and basically working your way up the pitch and then pressing aggressively and in packs to get the ball back. All of that stuff early on was great. And I feel like if you just ask the same formation that we've been using with similar personnel, because that's the next thing, we'll come to that in a minute. Not only is the formation changed, there was some odd selections in the new lineup. I think if you play most of the same personnel, you might have got away with 1 tweak. If some flyer came out of this 2 days of training and he liked the look of somebody more than somebody who's been playing more regularly. But then just you keep that formation and because they're used to that, and then give them some instructions around how you want them to operate on the ball and in space and pressing. That would be enough of a tweak, I think, on the back of just winning 6 domestic games. And now you're playing the league leaders. So I think he's, it's easy to say in hindsight, he's done too much too quickly. That much is clear. I don't think anyone can argue with that. I think what I would add, though, is we should have been up 1-0 early on. Maira's got to score his second chance. Like the first one, the first one he rushes, but the second one, he's taken an extra touch. He's just got to score. I don't know if you've got the first chance on.
I do have that. I do have both chances, Paul. Hang on 2 seconds. So
no worries. But yeah, I think if we get an early goal, it changes the entire complexion of the game. I think the fan base is up, the players are confident, and we were ripping through Hearts. So I wouldn't have been surprised to see us go on and score another goal. And you get 2-0 up against Hearts at home, they're not coming back from that. I don't care what anyone says. So yeah, this is the first chance. So this is just a bit rushed. The balls, and both of these early chances come from not unlike what O'Neill was asking us to do, play the ball forward quickly, good long passes. Maeda gets in behind here, and he's sort of on the turn. And yeah, the weather was appalling, and people, players lost their footing all night long, and it was a kind of at crucial points, it happened in the first goal. But he's not got the kind of calmness, or just the patience to just work out and a game awareness to know where he is. He's got nobody on him, and he's got his back to goal, and he just whips around and has a weak shot. And really, he's got time to take a touch way up. He's got support coming, or he could take a touch and then have a proper dig at it. So the first one is, it's not gilt-edged, but he should certainly do better with it, and there's a better opportunity there. The second one, until 2 or 3 years ago, I was still playing up front. I'd have backed myself to score this one. Like,
I must admit, I like Tenecti's control here, because he sort of pulls it down on his chest.
He does.
He then cuts inside, and then he just looks up. And one of the things you're guilty, Tenecti is very guilty of, is that final pass ball, like that final bit of ball use. And he lays it on a plate for Maeda. I mean, look at that angle there. I mean, he has to hit the target, and he effectively trips over it. And this is where I say,
well, he just takes an extra. Like, I'm not having the pitch here. He just takes an extra touch. So he wants an extra touch to get it out of his feet. What he wants to be doing when he takes that second touch to push it out, which is heavy, and then it's getting away from him, and then he sort of skews it wide. If he just puts his laces through that when he's about to take that second touch to get it out of his feet, he's got room in back left. He just whack that in the right hand side of the net. You should probably score a goal. I think he's got to score this, and if you score this, whatever this is, 10 minutes into the game or something, like I say, we could still argue the point that he was heavily gambled, and he took risk he didn't need to take by changing the formation and the tactics at the same time. But if we score this, I think we go on and win the game, and then you can have all the philosophical debate about the gamble at that point, but you win the match, 3 points. The manager's probably getting major kudos for having the massive pair of bollocks to do it all in the biggest league game of the season so far. As it is, he's gonna deservedly get some criticism, because he didn't have to take as big a risk as he did. And the second point is, I'm not sure we've got the personnel on 2 days' notice. Well, we haven't got the personnel on 2 days' notice to do this kind of wholesale change. And if he was going to play that, I don't think the lineup was right. Yang has been excellent, like a phoenix from the flames on the left-hand side under O'Neill in the last 2 or 3 games. But he's struggled on the right in any time he's ever played there. So to swap that around and essentially to accommodate Tenecti, who has flattered to deceive for weeks, as far as I'm concerned. You're right, great little cameo, good chest control, nice touch, good pass. But that probably where it began and end for Sebastian Tenecti last night. He wanted too much. He wanted too many touches on the ball. He wasn't willing to put his body on the line. He's never a wing back as long as my arse points down. Play Yang over. And look, nobody really covered themselves in glory. Certainly not second half. Yang was one of our better performers. I enjoyed the fact that not only did he do what he's got a tendency to do, which is try and commit players defensively, but he worked really hard. He threw himself into tackles. He sort of embraced that wing back role. So why not get him? If you want him on the pitch, get him on the left hand side. Tenecti can sit on the bench. He's been sat on the bench for the last few games under O'Neill, and I think rightly so. And I think, and people will mock me for this, I think Anthony Ralston would have been perfectly suited for that right wing back role, because one of the issues with Ralston is sometimes his defending and his positional awareness. That high up the pitch, you don't have to worry about him. He's got excellent delivery into the box, and he's got a great engine. So whether it was Donovan, whether it was Ralston,
thinking Kobe Donovan. I was thinking
Kobe. Either or. Like that was the player choice there.
Because
then you've got a bit more protection defensively as well, because Trusty's sort of playing even further out of position than he's used to.
Well, that was my thought, was that Trusty here is out of position. He really needs to be the central centre half, not the right-sided one with a left foot. So my thought was you could push Trusty and Stales across. Tierney could have been your left wing back. And then you had Donovan as your right wing back. And that just gives you that defensive solidity, because you effectively got 5 defenders. But, Donovan and Tierney can obviously put in decent crosses. And then as the game progresses, you can bring on Tinekti, Yang, and drip feed them into the game, where required, or potentially even play them in these sort of pockets where, you need Renan and Tati. But I just kind of feel that it was a bit of a gamble putting Tinekti and Yang in those positions, because obviously offensively, they've been okay-ish, but defensively questionable, because, Tinekti in particular, he's given the ball away a load of times this season and not tracked back and really left us under the cosh. And Yang's been more effective on the left. So it all comes back to the same problems we've had all season, is that poor usage in the final third from just a genuine lack of quality, but also the fact that we don't really have a right winger. And we've had to shoehorn players into that position that we just haven't been able to fill all season. And as a consequence, most of our play comes down the left. And it just leaves the team out of balance, out of kilter. And having Trusty playing right centre half just seemed to magnify that and potentially make that a little bit worse and just force us back the way. So to the point where the Hearts attackers, Braga and Shanklin, they let Trusty have the ball every time. They didn't press him at all. They just waited for him to pass the ball, then they pressed. But they let him have the ball because they knew he was always going to be at a tactical disadvantage in that position. And that was probably the other thing that showed up in this game as well, was the fact that, because obviously we were playing 3 at the back, there were pockets for Hearts to pick the ball up in either wing. So it took them about 20 minutes to half an hour to realize it. But as the game dragged on, they realized that they had that sort of empty space to sort of pick at us a little bit and try and sort of get behind us. So obviously with varying degrees of success. I'm just going to bring in some of these comments, Paul, and then we'll jump through the rest of the chances for the first half and then catch our breaths at halftime. And then we can obviously talk about their goal and go from there. But just bring in some of these comments. Just bear with me just a second. So Henrik Larson here saying, who would want the job? A draw initiates panic, expectations. Columbus Crew versus Celtic would be poles apart. So I mean, I guess part of this whole thing, Paul, has been about the timing of the decision to obviously bring Wilfred Nancy in. So we've got a cup final on the weekend. We've got Roma during the week. Obviously, we had Hearts on the weekend. It's probably 3 of the toughest fixtures in a row we're going to have all season. And we've brought the manager in. So we're sort of saying, has the board set Nancy up to fail? Should Martin O'Neill stay on another week? But then you're sort of saying, well, if Martin O'Neill fails, and it's like, well, why didn't you bring Nancy in quicker? And then at the same time, if Nancy has been signed and he's ready to go, but you're saying, oh no, we'd rather have Martin O'Neill deal with these games, then what does that say about the new manager that you've just employed? So you're kind of in it's a real sort of, I haven't got much sympathy for the Celtic board, by the way, but you're sort of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But my belief was that if he's signed and he's ready, he's got to come in, because he has to have the time, as much time as possible, to figure out the squad before this transfer window comes up. And obviously, you're hoping that Celtic will get that right, but there's no guarantees there either. So that was sort of one comment. And then we've got another one here saying, this new manager gives me the fear, from Thomas Burns. Keep the faith. We'll see how we go. Joseph Agnew, Ralston O'Donovan would have been the better choice at right wing back. Yeah, I think that we sort of agree with that comment. And he also sort of saying here, we need to let the media do its thing, and the fans need to sort of back the team and back the manager. And I think that's something that as a support, we probably need to just cool our jets just a wee bit. And, by all means, we can have criticism of our new manager, but at the same time, you have to caveat with the fact that it's been 3 days or 4 days. Are we 4 days, Paul? I mean, technically, are we 4 days, 5 days? Where are we at?
Thursday, day 5 today.
Day 5. All right, we're day 5. Henrik Melath, fairly relaxed at the moment. And then Mace just a few stats things here. So he's saying the first 20 minutes we were good. And then, 2-1 would have been a fair result to Celtic based on the data. And then he also sort of says here that the heavy rain had a significant impact on the outcome. And the dry weather, McInnes wouldn't got away with the pressing that he did. But there we go. And then John also saying here that the 2 chances that we created were balls over the top. And that's a fair point. It wasn't from sort of passing. It was a bit more the Martin O'Neill style. But onwards and upwards. Anything from that rambling, Paul, that you want to touch on before we move on?
I think in terms of when he's arrived, I think the only criticism I would have is, and you can't really complain too much because we won the matches that he wasn't here for. But I think when you identify your replacement manager, and he's the only name in the frame for weeks, so we knew it was going to be him. So the board obviously had a clear idea that was their man, and you can argue the toss about their rationale for hiring him, but on the face of it, not got too many grumbles about the hire. I think where I would complain is, to your point, the sooner he's in the door, the better. If once you've identified, argue the toss about who he is, but once you've identified your target, get him in the door ASAP, let him work with a team, let him identify who's in the squad. He needs to work out who's best to play now and who's, over the next few weeks, who needs replaced, who needs to be moved on. January window's coming. And by all accounts, we've waited until the 1st of December because
he was cheaper.
He was cheaper, yeah. His payout clause was halved, right? So, once again, penny pinching by the board. So, not a surprise. So, if we look back, O'Neill has done a great job. Like, let's not like over egg the pudding. O'Neill and Maloney got results, which is really all that matters. But they were hanging on in a few of those. Like, it took an absolute worldie from McGregor for us to beat St Mirren, and we had a few squeaks in other games over that period. The football wasn't scintillating. It was scintillating. It was better than we'd seen under Rodgers, but that was a really low bar latterly. So, there's a lot of romance with O'Neill, and it was brilliant how it went. But he's 73 years old. He didn't want to be around for long. And let's be clear, this squad would have dropped points eventually under him. And then the fan base would have turned on him like they've turned on everyone else at some point or another. And that's not the way anyone would want him to go out. It's romantic. I said this the other week. It's romantic to keep him hanging on for the cup final and let him have that bit of glory. But also, if you've got a new manager identified, get him in the door, get him working with a team. My main grumble about how Nancy went about his business this weekend is just that he probably tried to change too much too quickly. I like what he's trying to do. Whether we think we've got the personnel for 3 at the back right now, I'd argue the case that he didn't need to do that, as I said at the top of the show, especially when he's been playing a back 4 all season. So that was kind of odd. But more time on the training ground will get better, right? Despite everything that's been leveled at the manager, I think the biggest issue on the night is player capability. There was way too many passes underhit, overhit, or just not directed at the right target, like missing their target 1, 2, 3 yards left and right. So their basic skill set and basic.
You can't legislate for that either, can you?
Your manager can't legislate for that. Like, these guys have paid a lot of money to be able to pass it to their mate in the same colour shirt as them, and some of them are just nowhere near that at the moment. So, yeah, I did feel for him. I don't want to dwell on the tactics board. You mentioned it earlier. Obviously, it's become a meme. It's gone viral already, like any of this stuff does. But again, that was a kind of an outcome of where he was, right? Early on, you see him with the notepad out and the pen, and it's absolutely pissing down, as you point out. There's no way those notes would have stayed anyway legible. So he had to find an alternative way to get messages across and do that. And it also points to how little time they've had on the training ground, because he's literally trying to coach the team mid-game, which
were
is
you
far from
Celtic
ideal.
TV or were you Sky Sports?
I was Celtic TV.
I was Sky Sports, and I have to say, I was disgusted with Ian Crocker and Ryan McGowan and the comments that they were making about our manager, like giggling like schoolgirls doing, "Oh, he's got his little board out." It's like the guys just come in the door, like you're trying to promote the Scottish game by the broadcaster of our game, and they're just turning it into like a mockery. And then they've cut that scene up and put it on social media straight away for engagement. It's just Sky Sports does absolutely nothing to promote the Scottish game. It's an absolute joke of a broadcast because you turn it on half an hour before the kickoff. It's literally 27 minutes of ads and then 3 minutes of actual chat about the game. And it all is promoting the Formula One, the cricket, whatever other sports they've got on the roster. They do nothing to support the game. It's just, it's crap. It's so bad. And the fact that he's still commentating after all these years, and, you know, you could tell how excited he was when Hearts went 1-up. Imagine what he was like when they went 2-0 up. It's just, it's really, really, it's pathetic. And the comments around Wilfred Nancy last night, I was quite disgusted. I mean, it takes a lot for me to be sort of like, you know, offended. Not offended. Offended's not the right word, but just sort of like, it's just very, very petty. But then, you know, you employ Chris Boyd. So, you know, obviously petty and ill-informed is kind of what you're going for. So, yeah, I thought it was absolute. It was rubbish. And it was just pandering to the lowest common denominator. Strange Love the Doctor sort of agrees with me there. So thank you for that. Paul, this was probably Heart's first real sniff. This was a low driving cross from Milne. And then this was the one that got snuffed out by Kieran Tierney. One of these ones on another day could have ended up in the back of your own net, but Tierney sort of does like a backward sort of shin away, and it goes out for a corner. So we obviously clear the danger there, but that was probably the first wee warning sign that we're going to get a wee bit of joy in the gaps between the central defenders and the wing backs. And then this was the one where Nygren tries to ping a chip, or I don't know what he's really trying to do, to be honest. It was a poor shot selection. I thought Nygren had a pretty poor game, to be honest. I thought he'd have been taken off sooner. Again, back to this situation where he has stats that show he has all these assists and goals, but like just technically just looks like a very poor footballer. And he was one of the biggest culprits for not being able to hit a 5-yard pass for me. He was the one that let it break down time and time again. And again, these are just sort of overhit passes, just, you know, breakdown of chances. Like, could have been a chance, wasn't a chance. They're just it's all very scrappy stuff. This is just, you know, it was just unfortunately not able to do much about it. And here comes the goal. So for me, before this happens, Kieran Tierney loses the ball, so this allows the ball to get into this sort of, you know, our sort of left back channel. And you can see here Arnie Engels is on the touchline, so he's just coming back into play. Obviously, nobody really clocks him, particularly the Celtic defenders. Everyone's got their hands up, everyone's waving. Harry Milne with the world's worst shot, and somehow that falls to Braga. And then obviously you can see here that Arnie Engels plays everybody on. And in fairness, this linesman, he had his flag up every time. And that one time he didn't have his flag up, that just made me immediately think that we're in trouble. And sure enough, that was the case. Callum McGregor sort of slipping over. Everyone's sort of being very static. And yeah, Braga in the back of the net. And then all of a sudden we're having to listen to Queen getting sung in the back corner of Celtic Park. Paul, bit of a shambolic goal, really. The old play the whistle scenario didn't do it.
Absolutely, it's an absolute shambles. And you know, we've done this, as you say, for nearly 3 years, and when we talk about goals that we lose, we need, we regularly speak about it being collective responsibility. This is another perfect example of collective responsibility. It's also collective insanity as well, because not one single player decides that they're going to play the whistle. Nobody uses they're not. So yeah, Tierney's lost the ball, but like that's probably the least bad part of the defending that happens.
I just saw start. He says worse from there.
Look, okay, he loses the ball and it's in a wide area, but look, you saw how busy the box was. We've got plenty of defenders back. I think after that, the ball's kind of exchanged down the wing. That's why Engels is coming back from off the pitch, because he's slid across to try and block across, which he has sort of helped snuff that out, or they've had to come back the way. For me, this is the first fault after the original era. Engels has got to switch on. He's either got to go, I'm just going to stand off the pitch, and therefore these two are miles offside. Or if he's coming back on, he's got to be busting a gut to get up in line with his mates.
That was the problem. He wasn't busting a gut.
He does neither. I just think he hasn't got the awareness of he's not looking in the middle of the pitch. And every other defender, especially Trusty and Scales, in fact, McGregor as well, and is that Yang? So all of these, I don't think any of them are really aware of where Engels is. They're all ball watching, right? Which is fair enough. So that's Engels is definitely fault here. He literally just stay on his arse off the pitch. Then you can't be playing him offside if you're not on the pitch. So the next thing is Scales is we head our clearance is weak as piss. Like he's headed it from about the 6 yard line to where it, if we go back, he's headed it. He's been stood on the 6 yard line and he's headed it to where, he's headed out to that defender. Then he's chased, he's followed it out up in the air, loopy. It's a terrible header. Let's be honest. Then all he does, so this guy's completely unmarked. Fine, he heads it back in. Then, but this is where, look at them. They're all expecting it to be offside because they're no match awareness. Trusty's on the deck there. He's super weak in the jump for the challenge for the header. I think that's the first attempt with Braga. They jump up together. He falls over looking for a free kick. I think he's also expecting the offside. They're all expecting an offside flag. And so then it comes out to here. I think you can see the hands up, 3-4 hands up. They're all expecting offside. Then Milne hits this dreadful shot that ends up, by which point Trusty's got himself up off the deck. This is just us showing that he's onside. And then Cal McGregor slips on his backside. It's like Keystone Cop stuff, like if we want a 70-year-old reference. And then Braga tucks it in the corner and Schmeichel is statuesque. And then he's holding the ball up in one hand and screaming for offside. Like they've all just decided this will eventually be called offside. And clearly the correct decision was arrived at. But the lack of willingness just to, as you say, play the whistle and defend the box properly, and it gives them a foothold. Like it's so far against the run of play, it's not true. It's a first shot on target. I think they only had 2 on target all night, and they both went in. And it gives them something to hang on to, and gets their, the respective dressing rooms at halftime would have been night and day. Like if we go in at 0-0, Nancy's got a team talk that's like, doing great, lads, keep it going, it'll come, more of the same, tweak, bang, away you go. Everybody's upbeat and into the second half. As it is, he's got to pick them up off the floor. They're potentially having doubts about what's going on and their positions and what they should be doing, and it sort of unravels from there. Second half is poor, and obviously, as time goes on, you need to make changes, get more aggressively attacking, throw more attacking players on the pitch. The formation gets even more radical, sort of 4 up front at one point, I think. And yet it sort of drifts away, and the second goal is, put the tin lid on it. But equally, if we've got better delivery into the box, a bit. I think what happened, it happened towards the end of the first half before they scored, more so the second half. It was just like up until the last pass across, it was tempo with purpose. once we got into that final third with the final ball, effectively, it was rushed as opposed to intense. It was rushed and sort of a brain fade, like players just hitting the ball anywhere, like they were, flat crosses, overhit passes. I tell you what, we didn't see shots. Nobody was taking. There was no shooting. Like we got into the final third regularly, and you're just thinking half a hit, just.
Well, there was Luke McCowan tried in the second half, but his shots were terrible. Like one over the bar, one trundler. I thought he was a wee bit hard done by not to start. So obviously he went with Negrin over Luke McCowan, then deployed Luke McCowan on the left wing, which was odd.
He's naturally left-footed.
It's
all this inverting that makes you think he shouldn't be on the left. Do you know what I mean? Left wing back though, it's a bit of a stretch, but that again just talks to the fact that he doesn't know his squad yet. He doesn't know his players well enough yet. He doesn't know his squad yet. If we're talking about the coaching setup, the other interesting thing for me is no Maloney, even in a temporary handover basis, but Gavin Strachan and the laptop have survived. Like, what's he got on that laptop? He's got something. He's still in a job. Like, I just
naked pictures of Michael Nicholson and what's his Peter Law and
nobody wants that image at this time of day.
No.
But yeah, I just think the longer it went, you just start to force it. And yeah, I think the lack of quality again in certain players in our squad sort of shone through. Russian relatively simple things. Nancy said it in his post-match comments. He said, we had opportunity. We crossed a lot of balls in, but they were easily defended, and maybe we needed to pass better and move better rather than just cross. And you can't really argue with that. We threw a lot of both mostly flat and low crosses, which I think, yeah, they're big guys, but throwing it in at foot height or knee height, it's not. You're really you're just hoping for something to pinball about, and it's pure luck at that point, which is kind of how we got our goal. It's kind of how we got our goal. But yeah, I think the second goal puts the tin lid on it, I think.
Before we get to that, Paul, I'm going to bring some comments in, and then we'll talk about that, because that's really the other major talking point before we score. So just bear with me just a second. So Strange Love the Doctor, he's saying here that it's a bit like ripping off a bandage too early. Bogging, but strangely interesting. Yeah, I can sort of understand where you're coming from with that one. John CL saying here, us Johnson would fit the Nancy formation well, but that's the point. We currently don't have the players to fit the system, and there's probably definitely an argument to say that. And that's part of the lack of quality as well, Paul. We're talking about lack of quality in the squad. Some of that quality is injured. It's not that we don't have it; we just don't have it available right now. But the unfortunate thing is these injuries are long-term injuries. These aren't sort of like, oh, he'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're sort of saying that they're probably missing for most of the season. McLaughlin P saying here that Maeda left wing back might be a better option, but then we don't have a centre forward. Obviously, one thing we didn't comment on was the fact that Kelechi Iheanacho was back on the bench, so we're sort of thinking that he's obviously returned to fitness, but obviously Johnny Kenny was preferred off the bench. Strot Joe 76 saying that Ralston doesn't fit the bill for a wing back, so they need to be quick and agile. Liam Stales plays wing back for Ireland, so it can round peg, square holes, something like that.
Square peg.
Something like that. And then sort of saying here that maybe his tactics are a little bit too complicated. I don't think it's necessarily too complicated. I think it's just a lack of time on the training park and time just to sort of try and bed in those ideas. And when you're trailing 2-0, when the team you're playing against has really only had 2 shots on target and scored 2 goals, and you've dominated possession, and up to that point playing, I thought, reasonably well. I guess it did unravel, and you sort of had some players go back into their shell and just play their natural game, or whatever you want to call it, and then you had some guys still trying to play the system. And you probably had some guys who couldn't understand what the system was. So that's what made it look disjointed. filter in like I say, the heavy weather and the fact by that point Hearts were 2-0 up and they were just trying to stand in the box and defend with their lives because you had 2 goals to hang on to. So it was going to be very incredibly difficult. And in fairness, we nearly still did it because the best chance came with about 10 or 12 minutes to go, which we'll get to in a little bit. And Mike Rossi in here saying that some fans writing them off after one game baffles me. And that's the thing. We have to keep the head here, keep the faith. It's early days.
If you learn nothing from Ange, then
yes,
or even if you learn one thing from Ange, surely this is it. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be successful as Ange, so hopefully he will be, but he's clearly got his own style. He's clearly got his own stamp on the game, and he wants to play attractive football. Ange started off with a 2-1 defeat to Hearts as well, so I think he lost 3 of his first 6. So let's hope it's not quite.
We can't afford for that to happen.
we can't. Well, no, we probably can. But like the one thing that O'Neill's pragmatism did is it got us level. We were 8 points back, I think, when he came in. So okay, we're 3 back. We've got a game in hand. There will be drop points. I think all the teams, every team in the league is going to drop points over this next sort of month.
Absolutely.
Because no one's a finished article. Hearts did okay yesterday, but they've come off bad form and they nicked it, right? Like the balance of play says they nicked it. Rangers nowhere near where they want to be. Hibs up and down. Everybody I'd say this is one of the most even leagues in terms of other teams taking points off each other. So you'll see plenty of that. This is a good point by Strangelove the Doctor, and he's been making a few. There's another couple that I've noticed. So thanks for your contribution. This is my issue with this. It's not even tight. Like he's a good half yard offside, and it's on the same side as the linesman's looking right at it. He's got to get that right. I went back and looked at the replays tonight before we came on because I was like, in the heat of the match, was I overreacting? I wasn't. Like, yes, they cross, but it's the ball hasn't moved far, which is one of the issues with offside. Usually, like the ball's travel a long distance. Can you see the whole thing? It's a short pass. It's in his eye line, and he's in front of the defender, so you can see where he is comparatively. This is not a difficult decision for the linesman.
Jackie McNamara said on BBC Sports Scene last night that this was onside.
Not a chance. Not a chance. He's a good shoulder and a bit offside.
So that doesn't get given. Shanklin shoots. Schmeichel saves, because he doesn't know whether it's offside or not. Good save, obviously near post, but good save. Parries out for a corner. Should have been offside. It wasn't. Alistair Lamond in commentary for the BBC said, "Oh, that looked offside. Oh, they're giving a corner. Oh, there'll be real remonstrations here if Hearts get something from this corner." He literally said it before it happened. And then what happens is that who is it? Petrie, Milne whips it over, and it was who's your man that scores? McEntee. Yep. And in fairness, he generates some amount of power from this header. Yes, it's a free header. But,
who's marking him? I was trying to work that out.
It's meant to be Niedren. Niedren? Is it Niedren?
I don't know. I thought. Well, I might be wrong.
Niedren is the closest to the player. I mean, obviously there's three Hearts players there, and Niedren's the only one that's there. So you maybe have a little bit of sympathy and say, well, if Niedren is picking one of the other players up, who's picking these guys up? Is it Zonal? Like what's happened? Why is Scales or Trusty? Why is one of them trying to attack this ball?
Well, I think
it's the same old story. As soon as one of our centre halves put a head on it, it's a chance it's around the back of the net.
From that, it looks like it's kind of zonal. It's definitely not my marked, but
no.
If it is zonal, then your two best headers of the ball are Trusty and Scales. So Trusty's clearly covering the front half of the goal, and Scales is covering the back half of the goal. And Scales is going to be caught a mile away from it. Like I've said this millions of times. If Scales doesn't get a header in our box, we're in real trouble. And look how far away from the player that heads it he is. Now it's come a long way, So I don't know if he's. There doesn't look to be anyone really interfering with his running. Shankland's tied up with Tierney, and he gets a little bit of a wriggle off of him, but he's distracting him. But as far as I can see, Scales isn't really picking up anyone. So his job really should be to attack that ball as it comes in, and he's not really got anyone blocking him off. So yeah, it's just we've talked about it. If mainly Scales, if Scales doesn't get the first head on it, we're in trouble from set pieces, and it's a good delivery into the box, and it's a great header, but he shouldn't be getting a free header 8 yards out. He just shouldn't. 9-10 yards out, whatever it is. And yeah, it's a long way back.
It's an amazing header, though. I mean, to be able to get enough power on that from that angle, from that far out. I mean, all right, defensively we could have done a lot better, but just the sheer fact that he's able to get that with power on target and it beats the keeper. I mean, you've got to give a wee bit of credit where it's due. I mean, it's that's a one in. Mesh is saying it's a 1 in 100 probably header. He's probably right. I mean, you could probably try that move 100 times and you wouldn't score it again. So, but that's just the way sometimes our luck goes. And I said it's compounded on the back of, like you say, it should never have been a corner in the first place. But again, no mention of that in any post-match discussion, whatever. That always gets swept under the rug and ignored. I can rest assure you, had the shoe been under the foot and Celtic had scored that goal, Derek McInnes would have been crying to the media afterwards, looking for excuses. Whereas we just cop it on the chin and move on. But that's just how we roll. But anyway, I'm just trying to bring up. It's a Schmeichel on his backside. I'm just trying to bring up our best chance of the game. Bear with me just a second. There we go. So this was on around about 8 odd minutes. I think this was the one just before the chance. So this was Yang slips the ball through to KT, and then it's a cutback, and there's nobody following up, and then Yang blasts it over the bar, and then this is the one. So Tierney wind up a deep cross, and this is the Engels header. So he does incredibly well, and there's shades of the goal where he just kicked in the head last week. So again, getting on the end of it, but he's got to score here, Paul. I mean, it's just a foot either side of the goalkeeper. It's in the back of the net. He headers it straight to the keeper. I mean, he's done everything right, but he's kept the header low. But he's got to beat the keeper here. Yeah, like there's just if you want to get yourself back in the game, we're talking 85, 86 minutes. There's still probably 10 minutes to go after this to get an equaliser. Being harsh, or you think, he's definitely capable of scoring from that position?
Yeah, look, I think he should probably do better. The keeper, when it happened so quickly, I was like, how's that even stayed out? Like, I had no idea. And then there was a bit of a stramash afterwards, and was it Rio smashed it onto the bar at this point?
Yeah.
So when those two things happen in the same sort of chance, you just go, it's not going to be our night, is it? I thought he arrives well. He does kind of everything right. Like, I don't want to be too harsh on him. Like, if you put too much of a glance on that, you risk putting it past the post. A bit like he did it against Hibs. Like, if you arrive and get a big strong header on it and keep it on target, there's a good chance it flashes past the keeper. Keeper didn't. It was pretty central, the one against Hibs, and the keeper just didn't react quick enough. But the keeper made himself big, and he gambled, and he got a win on it. But yeah, I think if it's one of your actual strikers and they're in form, they probably tuck that away, right? Arnego's not for his. He got one the other week, but he's not known for his necessarily for his heading prowess. But yeah, Rio should probably do better with the follow up as well. But yeah, I think that when that doesn't go in, you sort of think, yeah, it's not your night. But the other thing is we didn't create enough, really. You know what I mean? These
Yeah.
two really good chances before the goal. This header we've just spoken about, and obviously Mayer a chance. That's really it, right? We've not done enough in the final third. We've not been good enough to carve out chances. And if you look back over the last few weeks, we have kind of relied on, a thunderbolt or a worldie from somewhere to get us the crucial goals. McGregor in the semi-final, McGregor at St Mirren, as I mentioned earlier. There's been a bit of that needed. We haven't really been producing lots of chances and lots of goals, and that's something that the new manager will have to work on in the short time he's got over the next week or so on the training ground with two massive matches coming up.
Mesh is saying here that we created 11 chances to 6. But this was also the goal. Tierney just leathers it, left foot, and it sort of manages to get
really
through the field of legs. Unfortunately, had it come a few minutes earlier, we might have had a wee half dash at a chance of an equaliser. But unfortunately, this was left with like a minute to go. So unfortunately, not enough time to get another goal. But that would have, to walk away 2 each would have saved our blushes. But unfortunately, not to be. Paul, we're quickly, very rapidly running out of time. But Gav actually did us a favour this week and actually gave us some player ratings, which we don't normally get that on here as an image, but I do have some. So actually, bear with me just a second. I've got it right here. We've got... This is actually statistics for the game. So this was just, 72% possession, XG of 1.88, and 3 big chances there too. But unfortunately, like you say, not enough to get the win. And then here, this is a player's rating. I don't know if it's football, but I don't know who does this. But so our highest rated player was Tierney was 7.8, which obviously boosted by the fact that he scored the goal. And I think Magnuson and McEntee, I think Magnuson, he sort of put a bit of a shift in marking Rio Hatate and really sort of tried to man mark him. So usually they go after McGregor, but I think this time he sort of went more after Hatate and sort of made him drop deeper and deeper because he was sort of trying to play that more advanced role, but he was picking the ball up in deeper and deeper areas rather than a bit further forward. But
some generous scores there for Celtic players, I would suggest.
Well, I know I'm sort of Yang 7.6 seems a bit generous. I'm ready to go here and Tierney, my man of the match, though. I do agree with him having the highest rating. I thought he put in a shift, and you kind of forgot about all his frailties in terms of the fact that he's had a few ups and downs this season. I thought he put a solid 90 minutes, and that was the other thing. Nancy only made 2 subs. He only brought on Luke McCowan and Johnny Kenny. So gone are the days of the double or triple sub. So he sort of left that team pretty much on the park for 90 minutes. Admittedly, I don't think he's got much left on the left to swap KT out for anyway. Like everyone else is injured, but I thought that was interesting in itself. But like I said, I thought KT was probably worthy of man of the match. But I'm happy to stand corrected if you have a better candidate, Paul.
I do not. I'm in complete agreement. Even before I saw these scores, I thought Tierney was the best of a bad bunch, is what I would probably say. Even he had errors. Obviously, we spoke about the first goal, losing the ball. He had some misplaced passes. He did have some cracking, rangy crossfield passes from that left side out to the right. And he was happy to play the ball forward at points. His passing was probably amongst the best in the team. He was much more of a threat down that left than Tinekti ever was. And he was better. I think he got better in attacking sense after Tinekti went off. I think him and Yang they've played together a little bit. They had good understanding and better linkage than him and Tinekti. So hopefully there's a bit more there to come. It's a bit of an odd one not to when you're desperate for a goal. you've got Iheanacho sitting on the bench, you think throw another striker on, or you've got Balikwisha, who in this system actually would probably work better. He's a more centralized 10, if you like. He's playing 2 10s behind a main striker. I think actually over time, if he persists with that system, both Balikwisha and Nygren will end up, fitting that system as rotation at least over time. So yeah, Kieran Tierney, the goal obviously added the gloss, albeit on a disappointing night. But yeah, I think he's the only solid candidate for man of the match from a Celtic point of view.
Any recommendations for us this week, Paul?
Of course. And this week I've got a little album recommendation I'm pretty excited to share. It sort of took me by surprise that this band had an album out so quickly. I've been following them for a little bit. They've had the odd EP here and there. But I've decided to say they're sort of like the glorious bastard child of the Pogues and the View. They're a 5-piece from Falkirk. The two main guy, the two sort of the lead singer and the guitarist are Celtic fans. I think they met on a Celtic supporters bus, and they're pretty young. They've been playing music together, and they sort of built up they had the first band, and then they got a few other people in, and eventually they've got the 5-piece band. So the band is Brogeal, spelled Brogeal. I assume Gaelic. And the album is Tuesday Paper Club, debut album. It's been out in the last week or so. Yeah, definitely wearing the Pogues and View influence heavily on the sleeve, but a few other influences in there. A lot of Scottish and Irish traditional instruments in there. And yeah, a real mashup between sort of folk rock and various other bits and pieces of genre. So yeah, if you're in any way a fan of the Pogues or the View, then or both, this will be right up your street. Pretty upbeat, young guys, apparently fantastic live as well. Playing around Scotland, I think towards the end. Well, we're at the end of the year. I think there's a few shows left this year promoting the album. It's obviously just come out, and I imagine they will only get bigger and better over the next 12 months and beyond. So yeah, Brogeal, Scottish 5-piece, check them out.
I just realised I haven't had the banner on for the whole episode. Sorry, Gavin. I've heard nothing, Paul, because I've been watching sport, and more sport. So I've not had a chance to watch any television. My wife's been away, so it's hard to start a new show while she's away as well. So I'm in limbo at the moment. So it's just been sport. So yeah, so I'll see if I can come up with something for next week. I said that last week. I'll try again next week. We will be back. League Cup final, Paul.
Yep, we will be. We'll be on the League Cup final.
So yes, we're at Hampden this weekend after playing Roma during the week. So yes, we will be back for that one. I'm just quickly trying to see what time that game is. It's 11:30 kickoff on the 14th, which is probably a Sunday night, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a Sunday. 11:30. Yeah, 3:30 kickoff back in Scotland. That is a kick in the stones for us in Perth, Western Australia. So yeah, and I've got to go to work on the Monday. Like, it couldn't have been when I had surgery and recovery.
Like all other mere mortals, Paul. Yes, we all have to go to work on a Monday morning, actually in the office, not just sitting at home behind a keyboard. All good. We'll be back covering that one. Hopefully we get some sort of result against Roma. And a week on the training park irons out some of the wee crinks in the system. And we lift our first silverware next week. And last night is a distant memory. And bearing in mind, we should be said that although Hearts are 3 points ahead, we do have a game in hand against Dundee United. So it could still be level in points once that game is played out. So not all is doom and gloom as social media would tell you otherwise. Thank you to everyone in the comments. Comment section was nice and lively tonight. And it's yes, we really appreciate everyone getting involved. And like I said, please like and subscribe to the episode. It helps other like-minded Celts Find us online. Paul, pleasure as always. And yeah, we'll be back next week covering that League Cup final and hopefully the first bit of silverware in our cupboard. And we'll see you then. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.